Now that I have the retraction cord removed, I'm going to continue on with my disc system. This again is from the Cosmedent FlexiDisc system. You'll see I'm using a very small disc and the polishing edge is facing the handpiece. And by doing that, I can work the disc along the cervical margin to make sure I have this ultra smooth blended composite to the enamel surface or to the tooth structure surface. Along the facial of the restoration, I'm going to use a larger disc, and now I have the polishing surface of the disc facing away from the handpiece, and you can see in the middle slide how much flex is on the disc because I want to get as much of that disc surface onto the composite enamel surface interface so I can get as smooth of a surface as possible. Once we're done with the contouring aspect of the restoration, now we can go to the polishing phase. With the FlexiDisc system, I'm using the yellow, which is a fine polish. Again, you see how the flex of the disc is around that cervical margin. And then I use a larger disc that's going to be going over the facial surface of the tooth at the composite enamel interface. I go to the final polishing disc with the FlexiDisc system. This is the pink or the rose color. Again, following the contour of the tooth, getting as much flex of the disc onto the tooth structure as I can. The final step in this class 5 with this patient is that I'm going to put some polishing paste on the tooth. This is an aluminum oxide polishing paste. This is enamelized again from Cosmedent. And then I'm using a FlexiBuff disc, which is sort of like a chamois wheel. And I use the chamois wheel to use that polishing paste, and you can see in the final slide the type of luster and the polish that we get with these restorations. What I really like about this microfill is that it mimics enamel in its luster. If you compare the central incisor reflective index with the natural lateral incisor, their light reflection is so similar, and I find these composite materials blend in so nicely. These microfills just look like enamel surface when we finish. So this is a photograph of 4.5 years post-op. Again, take a look at the reflectivity, look at the polish of the microfill composite. Again, this is what you get from the microfill that you do not get from nanofills or microhybrids. And the reason why I love using these microfills for a couple of reasons. Number one, we get this great polish that maintains long term. We don't get staining. It maintains its color. And most importantly, the flexibility of the microfill composite really blends in well with these abfractive or these NCCL Class 5 composite restorations. So now that we have the contour idealized, we've been able to hide the margin between the composite and the tooth structure. There's no surface defects, it's nice and smooth. Now we go to the polishing stage. The polishing stage is super fast. We're going to be using cups and discs to get us our final polish. We'll start out first with the pink cup. The pink Flexi Cup, again from Cosmedent. We're going to use that similarly to how we use the blue cup. That is, it allows us to get underneath the soft tissue at the cervical margin into that sulcus. So because of that great flex of that cup, it can really work down into that subgingival margin and clean up really nicely at the sulcus. So now I go to my polishing disc with my FlexiDisc system. And you can use the disc so it's facing towards the handpiece, or you can use the disc so it's facing away. I tend to like it facing, but I do it both directions. I'm going to put a lot of flex on the disc. I'm really increasing the speed now. You can really see the polish that's coming out on that composite. I go over to my pink disc, and again, use that pink disc and flex that disc as much as you can over the tooth surface to get as much of the disc onto the composite and tooth surface as you can. And you can see what an incredible polish you get. And we haven't even used our polishing paste, but just because it's this microfill, which has this crazy polish, and with using these discs, you get just a super, super polish on your composite. All right, now we get to the final polishing stage. In your kit, you had your little FlexiBuff disc. So it's got sort of the chamois wheel on the outside, and it's polished mylar on the other side. So to make sure you're using the right side, you want this buff side that's like sort of like a chamois wheel. I'm going to take a little of my enamelized, this is from Cosmedent, it's their aluminum oxide polishing paste, place it over the facial surface, And again, you don't need very much. Just a little dab of polishing paste actually works better than if you put too much on. Now I go to my Flexi Buff, and right over top of the composite and enamel surface, really rev up my slow speed, and that is the polish that you get using a microfill, using these discs or with your rubber cups, and then using this final polishing paste at the end. I'm just going to wipe it off with my alcohol gauze, and we'll take a look at the final surface. You should not be able to tell where the composite ends onto the enamel surface. If you look from the profile, you should be able to see a beautiful contour that follows the contour of the natural canine, as the composite just blends right in and creates this very natural tooth form.